So welcome everyone to Burge's Power Hour. And guess what? It's Burge tonight. I know I've had some of our coaches and some of our other people leading these calls in our community, but it's me tonight, and because this is one of my favorite topics to talk about. Is what are we talking about tonight? Oh yeah, intimacy and sex and self-discovery, right? So that can be a big mouthful when you talk about all of it at once. So just get ready, get prepared. We're going to go for it today. Those of you who have ever taken Essence of Being, you know that I like to do experiential things. And those who haven't, just know that you might want to get something to write with and something to write on, so that there will be some cool little things, experiences that we'll do tonight through this hour. And we're going to have a big power hour about sex, intimacy, and all that self discovery kind of stuff. Okay. Everybody ready? And welcome, Ekaterina and a C Harris. I don't know what the C stands for, but I'm glad you're here. And all of you will be getting this recording, by the way, those of you who have registered. So if you miss anything, you can go back and listen to the recording. You'll get that as well. All right. And there will be people also that have registered that aren't here yet, and they'll get the recording too. So I just want to say thank you for joining me, and let's just hop right in. Does anybody want to explain or share what their definition of intimacy is? Chicka bow 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 bow, chicka bow bow bow. None of that. Well, I hope those of you know who don't have never heard me before or seen me. I like to entertain at the same time of being really serious with people too at the same time. So anybody want to share? Yes, Teresa.
Intimacy for me is being it doesn't necessarily have to be sexual, but it's having that deep feeling of closeness to somebody. So
Perfect.
best I got.
No, that's perfect because yes, thank you for sharing that. And that is something that I also look at intimacy as well. And you know, the definition that I often suggest for people is into me see. You may have heard that before. Intimacy means into me see. It's the process of self-discovering inside, looking at me. And so a lot of people may have a fear around intimacy in that way. Some people have definitions of intimacy that include sex and some don't. So for this particular evening, I want to look at intimacy as that process of self-discovery to start with. Okay. And also about the fear that you may feel sometimes. Maybe you don't feel it, maybe you do, when you're drawn into some kind of great intimacy, when you get close to somebody. It's healthy fear for some of us. Maybe we don't think we're really in danger. In other words, if that's you, fear can also be in a relationship. It can move us forward. Having a relationship or letting somebody see inside of them can be exhilarating and fearful at the same time. Would you agree? Yeah. Yes, we're nodding. Those of you who I can see, you're nodding. Okay. So I'm going to offer you an invitation. All right. To really look at that fear tonight, just as energy. Look at it as energy. So you could use that fear to move forward, to fear forward, and use that as an invitation. You can see that lovers seek new levels of surrender. Now, in other words, for many of you might not understand this, but one of my beliefs is my fear lies in my vulnerability. And those who have done Essence of Being, you understand that the stronger I am, the more vulnerable I am, and the more vulnerable I am, the stronger I am. And so what that means in a sexual relationship is, look, I'll seduce you with my most lovable qualities, but I really won't let you into my heart. Does that resonate with anybody? That do you do that sometimes? Let me seduce you, but I'm not going to let you in my heart. Okay, because if you saw who I really am, you'd reject me. Have you ever felt that? Maybe maybe you're aware of that, maybe you're not. A lot of people have that inner dialogue going on and they don't even know it's going on. But a lot of times that's what's happening. And what I'm asking you to do is don't waste that energy resisting the direction that life naturally moves you in. Resistance creates tension and pain and conflict. So surrender. So if you surrender, it leads to what? It could lead to ease and peace and satisfaction. So your happiness can be a result of choosing to let go of any projections that you have and trust life to bring you purpose together with each other. So sometimes we want to get close to people. This is a really funky. I'm going to give you some content here first, and then we're going to go digging in your subconscious a little bit just to play and see what's there. And then I'm going to give you some tools. Okay. So that's kind of how we're going to flow with it tonight. But this concept is kind of interesting. Sometimes you ever feel like you have a need to get close to people? You want to be close to them sometimes. Yeah. But at the same time, we also want to be alone. Yeah. We need to have separateness, but and be independent, but we also have that paradox is we really want to be connected. So it's simultaneously we want to avoid situations that are like our past situations, don't we? We don't want to do those again in a relationship. We don't want to have that same relationship. We avoid it. So if it didn't work out before, we avoid all these other relationships because it might remind us of our past. And at the same time, we attract very similar situations to us or very similar types of things, people to us, so we can heal them and clear them and be free of them. So let me say that again. This is an interesting concept that I want to really give you. We simultaneously want to avoid situations that are like our past situations. And at the same time, we attract those similar situations to us to clear and heal. Okay? In other words, everything unlike love comes up for the purpose of healing. You can have sex without love. You can have love without sex. Right now I want to talk about that intimacy part of it because if we don't clear up the past, this is my belief, if we don't clear up the past, it'll keep showing up in other people, in situations, and we attract that to us for the purpose of healing it. Okay? In other words, have you been in many relationships and it's like different people, but it could be the same person, but like a different face? It's like there's a pattern there, right? You go, here we go again. I thought I got rid of that person, or I thought that, I already went through this before. So if we keep hanging on, that's why, because we're the common denominator. Because remember, everything unlike love comes up for the purpose of healing. And we're attracting people to us on a daily basis, whether we believe it or not, to bring up things for us to look at, to heal that in a relationship. And if we avoid them at the same time, it gets really tricky about intimacy. So we keep recreating that old pattern, that old past, the old resentments, the old fears. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So we resist getting close to people because of that. And oftentimes we resist getting positive attention and love due to our conditioning. So what happens is we're conditioned to resist that. In other words, a lot from our childhood. Would you see how that might work? We learn a lot of this from our childhood about relationships and intimacy and sexuality. We have a force of positive attention pulling us close at the same time. So we have this condition of our past pulling us apart, and we have the focus of positive attention pulling us closer. It's maddening. It can feel like a push me, pull you. Have you ever felt that? Yeah. Well, one of the concepts also that I want to share with you is Buckminster Fuller's concept of orbiting in love. And what that means is instead of falling in love and falling out of love, and falling into sex and falling out of sex and intimacy and all of that, you orbit in love. You don't fall, because when you fall, it stops. Gravity stops it. So orbiting in love means you're moving around in an orbit that you are connected. You are whole and complete by yourself. And if you feel that, then you will attract someone to you that is whole and complete, that will match your energy. And when you come together, it becomes something bigger than you can by yourself. It creates synergy. The 1 + 1 = 3. There's me, there's you, and together it makes us. So you don't lose who you are. Many people talk about my better half. What does that make you, a half person? So we project onto other people thinking, well, they're going to help me, and they're the one I need, and this is the sexual experience I want. And sometimes we put all of our eggs in that basket and we think, well, they're going to really prove to myself that I'm lovable and that I'm worthy and that my sexual desires are valid. And what I'm trying to tell you or show you or share with you is that when you are whole and complete and love yourself enough and have high self-esteem about who you are and what you're connected to, then you're going to attract another person that is just like that, because they are going to be vibrating in the same way you are. And you're not going to lose who you are if something happens to them, because you're not saying to them, love me enough to prove that I'm lovable for me to actually believe that. And so you are letting that other person off the hook that way. So again, 1 + 1 = 3. It's bigger. You become another energy. You become us. And that happens with sexuality. When you're having sex, it is an energy. It is a sexual flow, a give and take. And you don't have to have another person to have sex, do you? Just checking. Okay. So just want to let you know there are other ways. So I wanted you, if you're asking another person to fill your hole or fill your void, I guess I shouldn't say hole since we're talking about sex, but to fill your void, if you're asking someone else to fill that, I know, then you're going to get disappointed sooner or later, because it's exhausting, because they have their own void that they're trying to fill up. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right. So oftentimes we'll just pull back when we are getting really close to somebody. We pull back sometimes because somebody might get too close to us. So they're going to see who we really are. That's why that self-esteem is so important. And that fear really does get pretty big. And maybe you numb out. Do you numb out when people get close to you? Or maybe you just cut off your sensations. You stop breathing. You shut down. We make each other wrong. Have you ever done that? Yeah. Sometimes our fear, we increase our territory with another person, saying, I need bigger space. I'm going to project all the things that I don't like about myself onto you. That could be you. Or maybe what we do is we play out our old tapes in our head and we get out of control. It's this fear of getting out of control to become intimate with someone. So maybe we're afraid of that. And that's an unfamiliar feeling. Don't want to be out of control. That's what surrender might mean. Oh my, I'm letting go of control. What's going to happen to me? Am I going to get hurt? And it's unfamiliar. So we go to what's familiar in a relationship. And maybe we have power struggles in relationships. I'm sure you don't know about that, right? I'm sure you've never had a relationship where there were power struggles. We have these conflicting feelings, though, meaning that we have these past resentments that keep getting pushed up. They keep showing up in another person. But remember, the reason why they're there is to help us heal it. If we have choices. When we're with someone, we can look at them and say, you're here to support. This is subconscious that you might be saying this to yourself. And you can say, you're gonna bring this up for me so that I can choose to heal whatever it is that's going on for me, so that I don't keep repeating my same pattern. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So most of us could learn to receive a lot more pleasure, by the way, we're talking about pleasure, than we are now experiencing. So the key in this is your willingness to have it. To have a good sex life, you must be willing to receive. So if you have a low opinion of yourself, you won't think you deserve sexual pleasure. So another way of looking at this is to say that you will only have as much pleasure in sex as you're willing to give yourself. And I don't mean it in that way that you might be thinking, okay? We talk about different sexual techniques, perhaps. Both men and women are self-conscious, maybe, about being worried about gratifying their partners. But what actually works best, in my opinion, in bed is pleasing yourself. And that's, again, not what I mean. Don't take that out of context, okay? What I mean is the partners can make an agreement to be responsible. Be responsible for your own orgasms by telling each other. Tell each other what's pleasurable and taking turns in giving and receiving. Okay, so I'm not sure who's talking, but mute. Okay. So if you agree to be completely honest with your desires and your responses, then there's never any need to wonder about whether your partner's happy or bored or satisfied or frustrated or tired or turned on. So communication is the key. And sexual fulfillment requires you get rid of those old negative thoughts about sex. Perhaps maybe you've had this belief that it's dirty or dangerous or forbidden or scary or whatever it might be. And we're going to go there and find out what your subconscious beliefs are around sex, okay? And that's, I'm giving you all of this context so you understand why we're going to do this. You have any questions? No? All right. So the first thing I want to say about it first, though, is sex is innocent. You might want to write that down. Sex is innocent. It's all those negatives that we attach to it that gets all messed up. And you can start clearing them by writing down all your negative thoughts about sex and turning them into affirmations, which is what we're going to do today. Okay. What happens is if you let go of any of those negative thoughts about sex, it can be very obvious, but of course, it's very important when you're having sex to think about sex. So think about it when you're having sex. What are you thinking about? The dry cleaning or garage or wish I'd hurry up? Or do I need to pick up the kids? You know, what are you thinking about? So if you focus your whole attention on the area of the body that is being touched during foreplay, and when you're pleasing each other and it's your turn, you're giving and receiving, both people, it might best serve you if you're concentrating on the same places. That's the person receiving. In other words, everybody's concentrating on that because two minds focusing on one body makes a very powerful sexual energy. And again, sex is energy. It's a kundalini movement through your body. It's life force. The purer the energy, the purer, the greater the sexual experience. So it helps to remind us that you can stop and talk during sex, especially if it's not going the way you want for some reason. Some people believe that, oh, I can't change that or can't talk about it. They never even talk about it. So it just happens that way sometimes. So communication is important. I just want to throw that out there. If you're in a relationship right now, I'm going to give you some tools on how to support that. And if you're not in a relationship right now, I'm going to still give you some tools to support that so you attract the perfect person to you that you can play with these concepts. And it becomes safe. It becomes safe to communicate. You just have to practice. You can surrender. It just has to practice. You have to practice because maybe there's nothing lurking down there that's really scary. So there are 4 parts to ourselves. Okay. The first part is the open self. This is the self-discovery part before we go into your subconscious. All right. The open self is open to you and it's open to everybody else. That's what everybody knows. That's what you know. It contains all of your conscious actions and your statements. All right. The second part is your blind self. Now, your blind self is unknown to you, but it's known to others. It's what we call a scotoma. It's a blind spot. It's what other people see that you don't. You're blind to it, which is comprised of things others can find out about you that you're unaware of, like your habits or your mannerisms or your defense mechanisms or your flight strategies. They know when you're going to run. Okay. Your third part is your hidden self. Your hidden self is known to you, but nobody else knows it. These are your secrets. You hide it. Everything that you feel, desire, that you keep to yourself. And then the last self is the unknown self. And just like it sounds, the unknown self is unknown to you and others. Okay. Sharon, I want to mute you. Okay.
I missed that last. Unknown self is
unknown to you and others, which basically is your subconscious. That's your subconscious thought, or what I call bubble talk, the subconscious thought that keeps you from getting what you want. It's that little bubble above your head, like in a cartoon character. You don't even know you're thinking that. It's the subconscious. Okay. That's your unknown self. And so what we're going to do is go in there now and dig around with a stick and see what your unknown self is saying to yourself about sex. All right. The cool part about this is when you have an insight tonight, when you get an insight about it and how you operate in the world, you move from that blind self to the open self. So you can move around in all of these different selves that you have. So when you bring the unknown self, it's going to become maybe hidden to you, hidden to you, where you're going to hide it and you're not going to tell anybody. Okay. But once you tell somebody about it or you share with somebody, it becomes your open self. And now you can do something about it. Does that make sense? So that's why we go here, is so that you can move around these unknown parts, or maybe they are somewhat known to you, but not keep them hidden anymore. All right. So we're going to do stream of consciousness writing. And what that means is I'm going to say a sentence and I want you just to finish it and write down the first thing that comes up. Don't edit it. Don't think about it. Don't figure it out. Don't try to analyze it. Just write down the very first thing that comes up. You ready? Okay. What I expect when I have sex is. What I expect when I have sex is. Write down the first thing. I'm going to finish up on the one you're on. And the next one is the judgments I have around sex are. The judgments I have around sex are. Write down the first thing. Okay. Finish up on that one. And then this next part, we're going to go back to stream of consciousness in just a minute. This next part is I want you to rate yourself 1 through 10 about your values, your sexual values. And let's see what comes up. One, so I'm going to say a word about sex, and you write down if it's important to you or not, based on 1 through 10. 1 being I don't care, it's not important to me, it's not in my it's not important to me. 10 being absolutely got to have it. It's very valuable to me, and anywhere in between. Okay? Any questions about that? All right. So rate these words. First one is loyalty, 1 through 10. How important is that to you? Second one, honesty, 1 through 10. The third, faithful, 1 through 10. Fourth, trusting, 1 through 10. Trusting. The fifth word is humorous, 1 through 10. The sixth one is spiritual, 1 through 10. How important is that in sex for you? Spiritual. Number 7, sensitive, 1 through 10. 8, caring. It's important for caring. Number 9, passionate in sex. How important is that? 1 through 10. Number 10, generous, 1 through 10. Number 11, kind. Kind. Number 12, controlling. Controlling. Number 13, fun. Fun. 14, romantic. 1 through 10, romantic. 15, kinky. How important is that? And 16, the last one, intimate. Has to be intimate. Is important to you. So look at all of these numbers that you wrote down and all these 16 parts and these values. Circle the ones that are 5 and above. Circle the ones 5 and above. These are the important values that you have. And hopefully you wrote down the actual numbers or what they meant. If you didn't, I want to say them really fast again, just to make sure you have the name by that number so you can see that that's your value. Okay. 1 is honest. I'm sorry. 1 is loyalty. 2 is honest. 3 is faithful. 4th is trusting. 5 is humorous. 6 is spiritual. 7 is sensitive. 8 is caring. 9 is passionate. 10 is generous. 11 is kind. 12 is controlling. 13 is fun. 14 is romantic. 15 is kinky. And 16 is intimate. So what we've just done is identified your sexual values. It's really important to know what you really like and your values. And I would suggest if you have a partner, if you have someone you can do this with, to have them do the same thing so that they can rate their values and see if you're aligned. Now, maybe you meet somebody and you have your first date. You may not want to do that on your first date. But if you're with someone and they're open to this, just to kind of see if you're aligned. They don't have to be exactly the same, but it's important to perhaps understand their values and your values. It's good to know. So I want to go back to the stream of consciousness for a moment about your past. So I'm going to have you write down again first things that come up. My mother's beliefs around sex were or are. My mother's beliefs around sex were or are. And I think about it when you were little. What'd you hear? What'd you think? Maybe you don't know, make it up. Anything that you're a female caregiver, if you didn't have a mom with you. What did you hear or see, or what do you think you learned? My mother's beliefs around sex were or are. Finish up on the one you're on. And again, if you don't know, make it up. And you know what's coming next. My father's beliefs around sex were or are, or your male caregiver if you didn't grow up with a father. My father's beliefs around sex were or are. Think about when you were little, if you can come up with maybe what you learned, felt, thought, or heard. Finish up on the one you're on. And the next one is, what religion taught me about sex was. What religion taught me about sex was. What'd you grow up with around sex? Finish up on the one you're on. And then I want you to imagine or remember the first time you ever had sex. Now, I'm talking about consensual sex. If you haven't had consensual sex yet, just imagine what it might feel like. I say it that way because maybe the first time you ever had sex may have been abused sex. So, what I'm talking about is the first time, if you can think of the first time that you had sex where it was consenting. How'd it feel? How'd it feel? How'd you feel? And then finish up on the one you're on. Now, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Take another deep breath with me. Ready? Sex is, write down the first thing you thought of. First word. Okay. I know this can be a touchy subject for some people, and I work with a lot of people in this realm. So I'm not going to necessarily have you guys share these things. This is really just for you to see um, what kind of core beliefs that you might have, maybe it's positive, maybe it's negative and you don't like it and what you wrote down. There's things that we can do about it. But the first thing to realize about all this is whatever your patterns are, you can look at. You can look and see if there's a pattern here from your family, from religion, okay, from your past, from your expectations, you know, your judgments, where they come from. Are they yours? Did you take them on from other sources? But this, I wanted you just to look at the patterns that you might have around this to see, are these really what I feel about sex? Is this, where did this come from? And again, whatever you wrote down is great, perfect, because this is a self-discovery exercise of just becoming aware, bringing that perhaps unconscious part to the conscious level. So now we can do something about it. But I will tell you, the first thing to realize about all this is that when you have sex, it can activate a birth trauma. So think about it. When we're first born, our body goes through all this kinds of trauma for the most part, for many of us anyway. And there's perhaps a lot of pain when we're born. Whatever your belief system is, whatever, just stay with me on this one for a moment. Okay. You don't have to believe any of this, but some of us hold on to that pain in our body from way back then. And it's hard to love our body when we're in pain. And it hurts and it gets stored in our body, perhaps. That's my belief that when you're first born, you might have some kind of a belief around sexuality or around pain or about being in a body. And perhaps we may have started hating our bodies from right then because it hurts. Because I believe we're conscious beings. You know, when do we become conscious? When we're 21 or 2? You know, when do we have memories? Just because we can't remember them doesn't mean they're not there. But it can activate the pain body and it can activate that birth trauma. Some people call it a death urge. So people, because many of us could have had a death urge as soon as we're born, we're like, this hurts, I'm done, not going to be here. It's really dense. You know, we're in this beautiful body and then inside someone and we come out and everything's dense and we start feeling things, you know, and you might want to say, can I go back now? And we don't love our bodies. So this could be you, this could not be you, but I'm just throwing this out as a thought that it could be a type of a death urge to say I'm done with this body. So consider when you have orgasms, it could actually trigger a death urge because if you think about it, have you ever seen pictures of women when they're having an orgasm? And then pictures of women when they're giving birth? I don't know if you've ever seen the two, but they look exactly the same. It's fascinating. I study birth, I know, you know, and it's interesting how it's very similar. that pain pleasure thing. So that could happen. And obviously, if you love your body totally, you're going to allow it to have pleasure and in sex. And remember, you're only going to receive as much as you're willing to give yourself and sex yourself. You have to allow it to receive it. You're only going to receive what you're willing to receive. Sex is up to you. So again, there's all kinds of sex here, with a partner, without a partner. So just look at what you wrote down and see if there's a pattern. Look at the patterns, maybe what your mom believed, what your dad believed, or what you learned from religion or your first encounter. Look at your judgments and expectations. Do they match? So what you can do is focus on breaking that pattern if it's something you don't want. Okay. If it doesn't feel good, if it's not serving you, you can move forward with it. So just notice that. Notice the expectations and judgments. Normally I have people share, but since it's a sensitive subject, I just want you to just kind of self-reflect on that. Whether it's positive or negative, notice your beliefs. And remember, sex is energy. It's a part of that Kundalini experience, and it's life force. So what I'd like to share with you is, if you allow life force to move through you, many of you can experience this life force moving through you, and you can have orgasms even exercising. Did you know that? Or doing breath work, you can have orgasms because it's life force moving through you. That's the Kundalini exercise. That's the Kundalini experience. It's what you bring. So have you ever had orgasms exercising or doing breath work or anything? No? I have. It's fascinating. So it's a connection, though. Remember, I'm going to give you some affirmations. And like I said, if any of you want to share, I'll let you, if you want to share, I'll let one person share if you want to, just so people can learn through your sharing. But I want to give you some affirmations and some tools that you can work through whatever you discovered in your subconscious beliefs. Yes, no, no, yes, yes, no. Okay. All right. So affirmations that I feel will be serving us the best is number one, sex is innocent. We've seen what people can do with sex. They can withhold it, they can bully it, they can force it, they cannot allow it. Okay. That's not innocent. But the sexual part, that sexual Kundalini life force within our body is innocent. That part is pure. The second affirmation is, I'm responsible for my sexual experiences. I'm responsible for my sexual experiences. So if you've ever been victimized or you've had any kind of trauma, it can also create a sense of fear around sex, and you can't control it, so you don't allow it. So I want to encourage you, if that's you, to keep saying that to yourself. I'm responsible for my own sexual experiences, no matter what's happened in the past. You can choose, no matter what has happened in the past, you're responsible how you feel now, how you think, and what your beliefs are. But you have to heal those things in the past, or you'll keep recreating them for healing it. So you always have a choice, the purpose of healing. But in the meantime, say, I'm responsible for my own sexual experiences. You have the power. Take back the power. You have the power to create your own sexual experiences, meaning that nobody can do anything to you today, right now, this moment. The third one is, I am willing to receive pleasure. Hey, and if you're not willing to receive pleasure, just be willing to be willing. Start there. I am willing to be willing to receive pleasure. That's the first step. Some people think pleasure comes with a price. What am I going to owe? If I receive pleasure, I'm going to owe somebody something. So allow yourself, even if it's for 5 minutes, to say, I'm willing to be willing to receive pleasure because you deserve it. We didn't come here to hurt. We didn't come here to feel pain, really. Another affirmation is the fourth one is I give myself permission to feel and to surrender. I give myself permission to feel and surrender. You're the only one that can give permission. You have to give yourself permission to feel. And by the way, a lot of us don't want to feel pleasure sometimes, perhaps, because believe it or not, if we have a belief system around our parents, our mom and our dad, it's called parental disapproval syndrome, meaning I can't receive pleasure because they never received pleasure. I have to be loyal to my family because I see that they never receive pleasure, so I'm not going to receive pleasure. I want them to approve of me, even if they've long gone, even if they're past.
What was that called again, Burge?
Parental disapproval syndrome. We don't want to be disapproved of by our parents, so we feel like we have to do whatever their beliefs are. And whatever happened to them or whatever their beliefs are, we're honoring them somehow, the way we were raised. And if we change our beliefs, we may feel that we're dishonoring them. But remember, sex can be a very spiritual act. So let me give you some tools. One of the first tools is the mirror exercise. So if you feel like perhaps you don't like your body, or you're not sure about receiving pleasure, or you're afraid to surrender and to allow your feelings to be there, practice this in front of a mirror. Okay, stand there naked in front of the mirror and touch every part of your body and say, I love you. I love you. I love you, ear. I love you, face. I love you, neck. And you touch them. Touch it while you can. I love you, shoulder. I love you, arm. I love you, breasts. I love your tummy. I love you, genitals. I love you, bottom. Okay. I love you, legs. As you're looking at them, and just touch them. Okay. Our bodies are very intelligent. And this is what you're saying to yourself. So how many times do you look in the mirror and say, ugh, bleh, right? Whatever that is. So this is a really powerful tool. If you do this every day, whether you believe it or not, whether you really love it or not, but just look at this body as a gift, no matter what it looks like, no matter how it feels, the more love that you can actually suggest, and that there is something that happens when you touch. And they've proven this in a lot of births, babies who have not been touched. Okay, there is a connection that happens. I'm not going to go into all the science, but believe me, you can look it up. But it's definitely important to touch yourself and say those words, I love you. And what ends up happening when you do that? Eventually, what happens is, I love God. I love the universe. I love me. It starts changing as you really do this and allow yourself to be gentle and kind to yourself. And that brings your self-esteem up, and your body is listening. Your body is part of you. Yes, it's a coat. It's a tool that we have because it's not who we really are. If you believe in a soul or energy and a connection, it's not really I don't believe we die, our energy dies, but you can believe whatever you like. But right now, if that's something that is foreign to you or has eluded you, start there in the mirror and start touching yourself and saying, I love you. And just listen to what happens. Okay. The second tool is shake your second chakra. Now, those chakras are those energy wheels within your body and outside of your body. Those of you who know about chakras, they are just energy wheels that can spin, and they're part of your energy fields, and they're outside your body, they're inside your body. Most people know about 7 chakras, but the one I'm talking about is your second chakra, which is your navel chakra. This is your pleasure center. This is where your money also is, by the way. Your second chakra is your pleasure and your money. So if you want more money too, I call it shaking your money maker. So every morning when you wake up, you shake your money maker and you just shake it. You start shaking that second chakra and start moving back and forth and like a belly dancer, and just get all the cobwebs out. It's your it really, if you do your navel right around your navel and you kind of do a belly dancer and just start shaking that every morning, just say, I'm shaking my money maker, I'm shaking my pleasure center. What that does is it makes it wake up and it's more alive, and you're opening it. There's other techniques to open chakras, of course, but this is something that's very simple and easy for you to do. Okay. The third tool, which I just love, is sacred geometry, which means, first of all, orange is that second chakra color. Okay. Colors have vibrations as well. Wear orange. Wear orange underwear. And when you are having sex, and when you are making love, and when you are connected to somebody, you don't have to tell them you're doing this, okay? This is something that you can do for you, which is really cool. Or you could do it when you're by yourself. Is imagine an orange sphere, like a ball, and put yourself in that orange ball or that orange sphere, meaning the area of your second chakra and your genitals and around that area, while you're having sex with someone or making love, or whether you're doing it with yourself. But imagine an orange sphere. And if you're with someone else, imagine they're in it with you. So you'll put them in that sphere with you. And what that does is it brings in more life force and it activates that energy. And I promise you, you'll be able to tell a difference if you just close your eyes and imagine you're in that orange sphere. And it's called sacred geometry. It's just one of many little tools and tips that you can apply when you're experiencing that, and it expands it. Okay. See if I have anything else to say about that. Yeah. Okay. So just in summary, look back at your values, look back at the judgments and the beliefs that you have and the expectations that you have. And especially if you have a controlling thing you don't want to let go, you don't want to surrender because you're afraid, okay, to be intimate with someone. It's really allowing yourself to be seen. And the key here is that self-esteem of knowing that you are deserving of all of this. You deserve to feel pleasure. You deserve to have these feelings and to explore them. And invite your partner, if you have one, to share that experience with you. The more vulnerable you are, the stronger you are. And remember, you're opening up this communication with yourself. It calms the nervous system down when you do that. It really allows you just to be calm, and that Kundalini life force energy moves through your body. Sex is innocent. Was this helpful? Yeah. Anybody want to share anything before we go tonight? And then I'll tell you what's coming up next month.
I'll share quickly. I actually went rifling through my little EOB journal that I have to a prior time I was in one of these and I noticed the number shifting, which surprised me, but maybe I shouldn't be surprised because I actually dated the last time it was late May. So, the reality is a lot may have changed between late May and now we're mid-September.
Oh, with the Conscious Leadership Academy. That's right. What we
Yeah.
did relationships around sex. Yeah. And it shifted.
Some of the numbers shifted, some of them did not. Um,
That's
all of
progress.
them were above a 5 for me this time, which I guess was, interesting. That's the first time that's happened, and that's worth looking at a little more that, what is going on with me now that was not going on with me then, or what was going on with me then that's not going on now, or anyway,
Or
something like
something.
that.
You're moving, honey. That's the good part. Thank you. You're moving. And so, speaking of moving, next month, our next power hour will be about inner child. We're doing an inner child meditation, but it will be a meditation. It won't be live because we're getting ready to take our cruise. So we're doing our high vibes on the high sea cruise. Woohoo! October 21st to the 28th. Bob's going. Yay! So we're going to have that. So if you check it out, essenceofbeing.com/cruise, there's still time if you want to come. It's going to be extraordinary. I cannot wait. The next live events we're having is Essence of Communication and Essence of Leadership, October 5th and 6th. That'll be in Atlanta. And it's live. It's a whole day for each. Communication for one day and leadership for the next day. Okay. But check out our schedule. Go to essenceofbeing.com. Check out all the wonderful things that you can join us with. And Conscious Leadership Academy, we have calls every Tuesday night. It's free to jump on for the calls every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, where we have every week we do something like this, only we get a little deeper and we do it a little bit longer, okay, for people just to keep you connected in consciousness. All right. And we have different topics every time. But I appreciate you being here on this call. Hopefully there were some good takeaways. And you'll get this recording in your email, by the way. Okay. Any last thoughts, Raji?
Thank you, Burge.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Burge. Now, you said every Tuesday at 8. Did you mean every Tuesday at 7?
8 p.m. Eastern, we have our Conscious Leadership Academy calls that we have them at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's different than this. These are power hours that I do, which is once a month. It's always the third Wednesday of every month. And this is something I've been doing since 2011, I guess, every month. So the Conscious Leadership Academy is a whole nother thing, but you can check that out. If you go to the site, essenceofbeing.com, and you can actually register to come to any of the calls any Tuesday night. If you go to essenceofbeing.com/CLA preview.
Okay.
But you'll see that in the on the website, but it's CLA preview is what it's called. But that just registers you. You can get in on the calls, stay connected to us. We have incredible, right, Bob? I mean, it's extraordinary to stay connected and kind of keep you on focus and, keeps you moving in the direction. And we're in our communication modules right now. So yeah, and what he was talking about is we did something similar to this in our relationship module when we were doing that with everybody in our calls. So it's something else just to stay connected and join and be in our membership and just play with us.
Yeah, I've been trying to get to your relationship one online, not in person in Atlanta. Yeah, I've not been successful, as you can tell, but I'll keep on trying.
Well, And
thank you so much.
Welcome. I appreciate it, honey. Take care.
All right.
Thank you, Paul. See you again. See you next time.
Good night, everyone.
Night.